Hello again, Risk community. Welcome to another video tutorial to help you get started and make the best of ServiceNow. My name is Eric Ferron in Santa Clara, California. Our topic today is everything you need to know about controls, and I have two guests today. Jan Spurlin, who is Senior Implementation Trainer with the Training and Certification Organization, also called TACO, and Scott Ferguson, Director of Outbound Product Management in the Risk Business Unit. Well, welcome to both, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you having me.
Hello, everyone, and I'm glad to be here.
All right. So, Jan, let me start with you. In your experience as a trainer with ServiceNow, why do we need to talk about controls?
Well, unfortunately, frequently in my classes, I find that students really don't understand the difference between control attestations, control indicators, and control test. And they don't understand how they're used in the ServiceNow platform.
And Scott, what about you? What about your experience in the field with customers?
You know, Eric, it's an interesting question because the more I interact with customers and converse with them around their implementations, what I've found is there's a real misunderstanding between attestations and indicators and control tests. I don't think they're being used effectively across the board. I don't think they're getting the value out of them that they should because they're not being used the way they were designed.
All right. So it looks like we're going to have an interesting conversation to clarify all of this and make sure our customers get the best out of those features. So let's get started. And our agenda today, we're going to go first with quick refreshers. Then Scott's going to take us to the overall control life cycle. Then we're going to switch over to Jan to talk about attestations and indicators and get back to Scott to talk about control test. And we're going to have a quick conversation about common mistakes and what to do at the end of this tutorial. So very quickly, reminder that this tutorial is intended for customer users, practitioners in the early stages of product usage to help you get started in your path to success. We will have future tutorials over the more advanced stages of maturity, but for the time being, it's really about getting started. Also, this episode is one of a series that we're building for you. It is the latest installment of the technical deep dive segment on the left side of this slide. All right, so let's now get to the core of the conversation. So Scott, I turn to you to set up the scene for us.
All right, thanks, Eric. You know, when we think about the control lifecycle, where we really have to start is at the policy, right? Within every organization, based upon some regulation or framework that they've chose to adopt, whether it's a security regulation or a payment card or healthcare, organizations define policies that will dictate the behavior or what needs to be done within an organization. So in our example here, we're saying, you know, every employee needs to renew their licenses annually, and that may be a policy that gets published. What that becomes from an operational perspective is a control, right? An organization may put a control in place that says that individual department managers or owners, right, independent or group leaders would have to put a control in place to validate that the employees in their group have licenses that are up to date. And that owner takes accountability, right? They have to implement the control. They're responsible for enforcing it within their organization. And they have to implement the control so that they can then attest to the fact, right? They have to declare, I have put this control in place. I'm attesting to the fact that it's implemented and we're good to go. Then from a continuous monitoring perspective, right? In this use case of, you know, every employee needs to have a licenses up to date, right? The method that they put in place was that they're going to track it in some manner, in some system. So then from a continuous controls monitoring perspective, that owner needs to go execute within that method, right? Validate that they have the most valid dates and that everything is good to go. And then we move forward to the control test, which is essentially the auditor comes in and confirms then that that control is effective and is doing what it should be so that they're compliant in the full life cycle of this with the policy that was published because of some regulation that says this is what you were supposed to do.
All right, and every single one of these stages of the life cycle, of course, is mapped to a particular action or a particular page inside of the ServiceNow product. And I think, Jan, you're going to take us now through the stages inside of the ServiceNow product.
Absolutely, Eric. What you had and what Scott just talked about was the conceptual of how we handle and how we process a control. Now let's look at what does that look like inside the ServiceNow platform. We start off with states, which is something that is very common in ServiceNow, and the chevrons up at the top show you the states that a control goes through. When a control is in the draft state, the next thing that we're going to do with it is that we're going to attest. We click the attest button, and that will create a attestation record. And that attestation record asks very few questions. It says, have you implemented the control? Like Scott was talking about, in the example of every employee needs to have their license renewed, there needs to be a mechanism in place to track that. Has the control owner for this attestation done that? Have they put the control in place? Scott, you want to add anything here?
I think you're exactly right, Jan. It's important to remember the function of this attestation is not to prove the effectiveness of it. It's to prove whether or not it's in place so that we can move forward. It's a very simple action, and you're right on track.
Well, thank you for clarifying these, folks. So let's move on to the next steps.
After the owner has said, yes, I have a process, I have something in place to track whether my licenses are up to date or not, then we need to monitor it. And in ServiceNow, we monitor that by using indicators. Now, indicators are a term that are not super familiar to a lot of people in the GRC world, but it's something that they're doing today. There is a way that they measure it. They ask engineers to go and pull information off of logs. And that's what an indicator does in ServiceNow. Now, ServiceNow has a couple of different types of indicators. It has a manual indicator, and a manual indicator will mimic what is happening in today's world where the emails are being sent and the logs are being checked. In our example of the renewal licenses, it could be, hey, go pull your latest spreadsheet and compare it against the actual licensing dates. Make sure everybody's licenses is up to date. In the future, you're going to get to the point where you're going to automate this, where you can actually have some type of a system that's checked that goes and looks up dates so that you can take the human component out of it and reduce the overall time that it takes to test this type of control. Scott, you want to add something?
I think it's important to remember and stress the fact that there are different types of indicators, right, from a maturity perspective. You have those manual ones that will very easily equate to what you're doing today, right? Someone has a spreadsheet that they, or sends an email that says every month I need to do this, right? That's a great use case for those manual indicators. And then as you move up that maturity scale, you can start automating them if I can pull data or get to data automatically. And it's important to use both of those. They both have a lot of value. And I think it's important for you to use them appropriately.
All right. Well, thank you for that. So let's move now to the control test phase. And Scott, let's get back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. The control test, right? And we've talked about the first couple of phases. I'm an owner. I've had a control assigned to me. I've attested to the fact that it's in place, right? We implement it, and yes, I've put my stamp of approval. It's ready to go. And then Jan talked about how we then continuously monitor from a control effectiveness to say we're doing what we should do. But you get to that point where, if you go back to the regulation that was defined or that was put forth that we need to adhere to, in many cases, an auditor is going to come in to check, right? I may trust you, but I'm going to verify, right? I'm going to validate that you're actually doing what you said you would do, that you said what you would do when you attested to it, and that you've actually followed through with those continuous controls monitoring. In the control test is an exercise that third party is going to go through where they're going to look at the design test, right? Did you implement the process, the method appropriately, right? From an operational perspective, let me look at a sampling of data that we've collected through continuous controls monitoring to say, yes, you designed it and you're following it appropriately. And then hopefully if all of that goes well, you're going to deem the control effective, right? It's actually been put into place and is being followed appropriately. And the third party can then generate their report to some stakeholder that says, you know what, this organization, this group, this department is doing what they should do. That happens in that control test in the audit mechanism as part of an audit engagement for that third party to execute upon.
All right. We started this conversation mentioning that we see that sometimes people get this wrong. So can you please take us through some of the common mistakes that you recommend everybody pays attention to and not get trapped with?
Yeah, Eric, there are some very common mistakes. And the first one is, and Jan talked about it, right? That attestation is a simple process. Is the control implemented and provide some evidence that it's been done. I would suggest that a common mistake is that people try to turn the attestation into ongoing continuous monitoring because they've heard the word attestation in other places and they think that that's supposed to be used for that ongoing control test or that continuous monitoring, or even a control test. So they modify the attestation. I would suggest don't change it, right? Use the attestation as designed to just validate that the control has been implemented, and then you can use those indicators, right, to do the ongoing maintenance and testing of such.
All right. What about indicators, John?
Yeah, I think that the biggest mistake on indicators is because it is not a term that the GRC industry is used to. Is they say, oh, we can skip these, or they say our CMDB is not mature enough, we can't automate things, and they're not thinking about setting them up as minimum manual indicators. To bypass setting up indicators for measuring controls is a big mistake. It's so simple and it solves so many problems where you're not chasing people down to see if they've gathered the evidence that you need to find out whether a control is working effectively or not. So just realizing that you may have to set up a maturity in this area. Start simple, figure out how it works, and then do continuous improvement. You don't have to boil the ocean.
You know, Jan, I would say, putting the two of these together, it's those people that forget to set up the indicators are probably the ones that are modifying the attestations.
Good point. Because technically, you can edit the attestation. Technically, it is completely feasible to do, but it's not something we recommend.
Don't
Correct.
do it. Okay, so this really brings us to the whole realm of knowledge, right? You want to tell us a little bit about this, Scott?
Yeah, you know, I've seen lots of customer implementations. I've seen, have been a part of and experienced lots of customer go lives. And the ones that are the most successful are those ones that have either leveraged, you know, someone who was an expert in this space that brought that knowledge, right? How to use attestations, how to use indicators, how to use control tests, how to use entities, which is covered in another video, right? Bringing that expertise to the table is critical. Furthermore, right, the team that's going to be on site, right, that after the fact, that once the implementation is done, has to manage the care and feeding of this going forward. The ones that are the most successful are those ones that have actually gone to training, right? The ones that have struggled are someone who maybe doesn't go to training, or and even furthermore tries to self-implement just by trying to read and figure it out on their own. Never do those turn out the way that we would all hope.
All right. So let's move on now, since we are approaching the end of the presentation. Let's move on to what you would recommend our audience does right now after they've seen this tutorial.
Going back to, if I look at the mistakes that are common, right, that we try to avoid, what I would do right now is make sure that you're using those attestations the way that they were designed, right? Not as your continuous controls monitoring indicator, right? But as the attestation of yes, my control is implemented and yes, it is put in place, right? Let the continuous controls monitoring be done by what was designed to do that. So you make sure you're using those properly.
And on the indicators, set them up. Start with manual ones. Do the basics. You can always mature in the future.
If you think about, I've got the auditors coming in after the first of the year, use those control tests, right? Use the audit application to do a self-assessment, right? If you've got your attestations, you've got your indicators in place like Jan was talking about, I can now use this control test to look at the effectiveness of my controls in an engagement, execute those control tests, find those issues before the third-party auditors come in, and you'll find then that when you go through that exercise and then you show the third-party auditor the work that you've done proactively, you're going to reap the benefits of that from an audit.
All right. And last but not least, we cannot stress enough the importance of acquiring the right knowledge to get those implementations and those rollouts done properly right from the word go. Please do sign up for the GRC Fundamentals class. You will maybe end up in the class that is led by Jan, so you can benefit from extraordinary expertise.
One of the things that we have found is that there are a lot of people who try and skip the GRC Fundamentals class because they've been working in the GRC world for a long time and they don't think that they need GRC Fundamentals. This class really ought to be renamed GRC Fundamentals on the ServiceNow platform, because what it does is it talks about how to use ServiceNow to address GRC, and it is for everyone.
Very good. And really how to make the best out of the ServiceNow platform and how to really extract all of the value that it can bring in terms of productivity gains, time saving, and so on and so forth. All right, folks, this is great. We are at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for your time, Jan and Scott. Thank you so much to our audience for listening in. And to finish off, a couple of quick reminders. Of course, the PDF version of the slides will be available in the forum, in the GRC forum. And if you have questions, please post them on the GRC forum. Jan and Scott and many other ServiceNow specialists are there every day answering questions. So again, thank you very much, Jan. Thank you very much, Scott. And until next time, goodbye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Eric.